Dr. Andrew Murrison, what is your role in the government's centenary plans?
Well, David Cameron's asked me to be his special representative for the Centenary Commemoration of the Great War. So I shall be looking at what has been achieved already in terms of the work of the very large number of organisations that have an interest in this, and how government can help and provide some leadership and encouragement for what I think is going to be a very important commemoration in our national life, not just in 2014, but for the 4 years leading up to Armistice Day 2018.
Can you give us any details of forthcoming announcements that the government will make regarding this centenary?
I give you a flavour of what I think the outcome will be, and that is a tapestry of very local, very grassroots commemorations that will be drawn together in some sort of national framework. And I think the appetite in this country is for projects based in communities, looking at this conflict at a very human level. Already there are lots of small-scale projects that commemorate the lives and contributions of people that were participants in the Great War, and as constituency MPs we're all very familiar with those, and I think some of them are just brilliant. And I think what our unique British contribution to this will be to encourage and develop some of that work and to draw it all together nationally in some archive that will be easily accessible. I think actually if that's done well, it will be a wonderful way of marking this centenary, and I think it would be very much in keeping with what people would like to see, and that is an interpretation of these extraordinary events in a very human context.
On a larger scale though, do you plan to work with any foreign governments on centenary plans?
Very much so. This is an international effort, and obviously each individual country is going to have its own take on the events of 1914-18. But there will be, of course, international commemorations of the outbreak of the Great War and the battles during those 4 years leading up to, of course, the peace of 1918, which we'll celebrate in 2018. And I think it's important to point out that in this country we've traditionally had a habit of celebrating the end of conflict rather than the beginning. And I think this conflict, this centenary, is going to be subtly different because it was of such monumental importance. It has shaped the world that we live in today so profoundly that there is a need to mark the outbreak of hostilities in 1914 and to continue to mark the very big conflicts that proceed from that right the way up to 1918.
The Australian, French and Flemish government have already made some announcements, and actually I think President Sarkozy is going to inaugurate a museum on the 11th of November. Is Britain at risk of lagging behind in its own plans?
Well, I've looked at some of the plans, and I think it's worthwhile just pointing out that, of course, Britain's marking of the importance of the Great War began even before the Great War was ended, just a short distance from here, in 1917, in the formation of the Imperial War Museum. And the Imperial War Museum has some well-advanced plans now for a centenary exhibition that will be permanent and I think will be a marvellous contribution to the way that Britain marks the outbreak of the Great War. And I think government will be very much encouraging that initiative. The French, of course, have decided to build a new museum, which is great, and I look forward to seeing it, but Britain got there first.